respect the people that actually don't have the money that they're trying to get from.
Oh, absolutely.
It definitely seems like exploitation to me. That's just how I see it. Privatization and public administration, and I don't think it actually works.
Yeah, well, I think
it sounds good on paper, though.
Yeah, well, and
really
it's contrary to even, I think, the origin of our country.
Exactly.
I mean, we're not supposed to have an oppressive government with a king that rules everything arbitrarily, but at the same time, the Articles of Confederation didn't work for a reason, because the states need to work together as Americans through the federal government. You know? If not, then we just become, fragmented in civil war, or we have horrible instances where people still don't have rights now, whether you're Hispanic or gay or black or Arabic or Islamic for that matter.
But I think it's interesting to know that people are, even around everywhere, they're starting to realize and understand that there's something going on where we've been lied to for all these years, and this picture what they painted for, even Republicans and Democrats in general.
But they knew it when we voted for Obama, right? So why didn't we do it in the midterm?
Well, I think that a lot of what happened with the election of Obama was the idea of the first black president was so enticing that
more than anything,
it became almost like a second culture. Okay. It became like the idea of, it's in the music, it's everywhere. You're getting hit with it. So the idea of you going to vote was just something that was necessary. But people didn't realize, it just goes to show that the political power wasn't actually itself, really invested in the people. It was there for that moment. But I think that backing it up, the idea of yes we can became, I thought we could, but really didn't really work out like that.
Well, what about Lupe's comment on calling Obama a terrorist? What do you think about that?
Well, I think it has more to do with his position. It's more of as the head of the United States, and they invented the war on terror, and they're in charge of the war on terror. So he's just the natural head of it. It's like saying is America a terrorist state? Well, no, but there are McVeigh, and there are Houdatree, and there are violent domestic organizations that want to harm Americans, let alone other people around the world.
So it's interesting to know too. I think that Lupe speaks from the international community, speaks from the perspective of the international community rather than just America from itself. The idea of the crabs in the bucket mentality really works for other countries too. When it comes to the top leaders and the top leaders, economic countries in our world, they're actually really exploiting other countries too, whether you realize it or not. And I think that when he's defining the terrorist, he's defining the true meaning of terror, which is using force, using violence, and using fear as a motivation to create a desired action.
Not fostering violence for immediate political purpose.
Because the idea of terrorism, is more like, how do you define a terrorist, and what is a terrorist? It's really been an interesting, question to ask, because a terrorist can be defined as anybody who's in opposition to a particular agenda. That can be defined as a terrorist. A terrorist might be somebody who screams out Allah Akbar, on the actual docks at a certain point. So it's all just a really matter of perspective as far as how you said that.
Well, it's interesting. I think you don't want to blindly follow any political belief.
Of course,
and you noted that with the whole the wave of the first black president. By getting into that and not everybody getting into the politics of it as well, it ended up falling short. And I think that's what Lupe's biggest goal is, to say, look, even though there's a Democrat in power, there's still a system in place.
So true. I think
have to dissent.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I believe, as far as Obama as a character, he can only do so much as an individual. And I think there's this thing called Congress everybody really forgets about. He's been doing a lot of things. He's been running down a checklist. There's very few presidents that actually run down a checklist and do these things.
You can look at it.
It's just that, at the same time, he's met with opposition. And when it comes to politics, a lot of it's about really standing your ground in certain beliefs and really giving way. And I think that, sadly, he's really giving way because there's so much force and so much actual opposition to where he wants to go.
Economic interest, like we've been discussing. That's
so
the
true.
biggest thing.
I think it's very, very true.
And even for him, he's a lawyer, but he went to University of Chicago, which is a huge economist school. He knows the money, he knows the industry. And not only that, there is a class divide in just being a senator compared to being a House of Representatives. And the senators are generally people who, and this isn't Obama, but he was allowed to be into that elite status. They're inheriting it. Their fathers were senators as well. They come from big industries. There's very few grassroots senators out there. Even Rubio, if you look into his background, comes from, strong economic Hispanic communities, So whereas House of Representatives, where you see a lot of the Tea Party movement that went through, they're just small time people, local business people, you know.